No mai haere mai e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm on Gadigal land in Sydney, as is Danny. In Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington, we have Alex. We weren't able to record last week, so we have two men's games to discuss today. We will start with the win against Newcastle away. Game of two halves. The first half was great. Second half was pretty shocking. So 34th minute, Costa goal, assist by Nagasawa with a header. 41st minute, there's a Nagasawa goal, which is really nice. Some nice play down there. Costa to Payne to Nagasawa, beautiful ball in. Yep, 2-0 at halftime to us. And then the second half, I have to say, was a shit show. 65th minute, we concede an own goal off a corner. We can discuss whether it was a foul or not. Either way, it's gone in. There have been other chaotic parts. 69th minute, somehow the ball doesn't go in for them. The very last play of the match, Joshy catches the shot like between his legs. That was almost a goal. Danny, would you like to start because you were there?
Yeah, I was there. It was, as I say, very interesting game. It was like two different games. First half, very happy. Second half, chewing nails, swearing at the pitch quite a lot. So the first half, we just looked good. We looked like we remembered how to attack. And Newcastle couldn't really do that much about it. We played Nagasawa much further up the pitch, and he seemed to be getting quite a lot of joy in terms of longer balls up to him on his head, and then we're winning that second ball and doing things with it. We also seem to be pushing up in numbers a little bit more, and it was also really positive. The Newcastle, although they had more of the possession, they were just passing the ball around, and you could noticeably hear the Newcastle fans getting frustrated with it when they were getting the ball, playing out the back, getting it to midfield, and then passing it back again. And I just felt, look, that's what we've been doing all season, and I could feel their frustration. And they were getting very angry at their bench, at the manager, who I think is already going at the end of the season anyway. And so it looked like it was just going to be, it's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy this trip here. And then in the second half, they switched things around. They moved their defence around. They put someone a lot taller on Nagasawa, which stopped him getting any joy out of the longer balls going up. And I think we shrank back into ourselves a little bit. They pushed forward, and then suddenly it was all Newcastle, and we basically went forward at all. And it was that last-ditch defending, blocking, shot stopping from Alawemi, who saved some amazing shots. We can talk about the goal later, but and it was just it was a half that you just knew they were going to score, and when they scored one, it was just a matter of time for the second one. Thankfully, the final whistle came before it. I can remember maybe one attack that we had, and that was it, which I think shows something about this team. Potentially we can do some stuff going forward. Newcastle not a great side, but it shows that we do have the players to be attacking, but also we just have that tendency to fall back and sit in that low block, and a decent side or even a half decent side Newcastle eventually will score goals against us, and we just don't seem to be able to do the both and have that sort of nice balance of going forward when we can, but also being consistent at the back. So it sort of showed off the best and the worst of the team over the season. But we got the 3 points, which was good. Was it deserved? Again, depends which half you look at.
Yeah, I really liked how Costa was kind of being brought into play a lot more in this game. He's been super isolated up top as a 9. But I play in kind of that 9-10 role. It's a bit more fluid now. I liked how Ishige and Nagasawa were kind of swapped from where you'd usually expect them. Ishige was kind of down the back, a bit more kind of linking up play in that 6th position, which I think you wouldn't really expect it to be a position he would be good at. But I mean, if you look at it at the bigger picture, he's got quite fast feet. He can sometimes, find those passes, and he can beat a man, he can turn, blah blah blah. And Nagasawa had offered a lot of physicality up in that final third, which is kind of something that we've lacked all season, especially with Costa up there. He's not the tallest, nor the strongest. But as you said, in the second half, they complemented that really well. I think Payne had a really great game. That the second assist for him was spectacular, and the play get that assist. I think the team is kind of starting to gel a bit more now, especially with kind of those quick passes, which is the style that we were supposedly meant to be playing all season, and now we're kind of like halfway there. In terms of the goal that we conceded, the one from the corner, I mean, I don't really know how to feel about it because I've seen lots of far softer calls go against the attacker, and lots of goals get disallowed for far softer things that you wouldn't actually expect to be disallowed. I mean, to me, it looks like Oloyemi is going to get possession of the ball, and the Jets player kind of crashes into him. I don't think he gets much of the ball, the Jets player, the attacker, which convention says is adequate to be ruled out and called as a foul. So, yeah, I don't really know.
In my opinion, it's a foul. I mean, the two sort of schools of opinion seem to be, well, one, it's a foul because he wasn't looking at the ball, he goes straight in on the keeper, and he does that anywhere else on the pitch, and it's a foul. And the other school of opinion is, well, Oloyemi should have just been stronger and held onto the ball. And I think both things can be true. Oloyemi, yeah, absolutely should have held onto the ball. But it was also, I think, a clear foul. Now, whether you want that to be a foul depends on how soft you think keepers have it, whether they're overprotected. And I think a lot of people think keepers are overprotected and, maybe you should be a bit more physical. But I've never seen a challenge like that not being given in the A-League this season or last season or the season before. So in terms of consistency, that's a foul and it's not a goal. So we were hard done by there. But then we got let off very luckily, which probably should have been a penalty. And, the authorities managed to give them an offside, which, may have been offside, but realistically, they made the wrong decision in the first place. So, I'm not going to complain too much about it. It was really interesting seeing Oloyemi's reaction to it, because as soon as the ball went in, he did not look worried or upset at all. He was like, it's okay, because he's going to be called off. And then seeing his face change over sort of the minute as he sort of realised, hang on, he hasn't called it. It hasn't been called. He was absolutely convinced that was a foul. And he was saying to his defenders, I'm not worried. His head wasn't down at all because it was obviously going to be called a foul. And then as it didn't, he just got more and more just like shocked and amazed at how could that not be called a foul until, finally we kicked off again. And it was like, shit, well, he's let that goal in. So, he should have been stronger and held onto it. But again, any other time, that's not a goal. And he made so many saves in that game. That's, again, I said sort of we saw the good and the bad of the Wellington Phoenix from the season. We saw the good and the bad of Oloyemi there as well. One, his tentativeness, which sort of lets him down, or his lack of confidence, if you like, sometimes, which led to the goal. But also the fact that he's as good a shot stopper as I've ever seen when it comes through there. With all parts of his body. Unfortunately, it has to be like that because we let them have so many shots, which is, a weakness.
It's kind of like Louis Fenton when he gave away that handball to Sydney when we got the infamous "it didn't even fucking touch my hand" moment. I think the only thing saving us for the penalty, apart from the offside, of course, but the ref gave a yellow card for the dive. I think he gave a yellow card. Maybe I'm getting confused, but I think the Jets player kind of took a few steps after the foul, which kind of indicates that he, might not have gone to ground anyway. It might just be going to ground because it's a penalty. But, I'm not a ref.
To me, I think that was a foul and we were saved by the offside call. I feel a bit for Kota Mizuna because of the way that the calls were made, he couldn't get that yellow card rescinded. I think that was really unfortunate. I can see why Fagani thought it was a dive, but it wasn't. Whether you think it's enough contact for a foul or not, it's still it wasn't a dive. It's really it's unfortunate for him, and I'm glad that he wasn't already on a yellow or might have gotten another yellow because that would have had really serious consequences. But the refs boss came out and said, look, this is actually just, there's nothing we can do about it. Those are the rules. We have to change the rules if we want to make that different next time. So I do feel for him on that. Thankfully, it was called offside. I also think that it was a foul on Joshy based on what fouls are called on keepers. It does make me wonder whether because he was so nonchalant, it'll get called off, that maybe he could have been stronger in getting the ball anyway. If he was maybe a little bit blasé about it because he's like, well, I've just been knocked, that's okay, whatever, it'll get called off. I don't know. Otherwise, he was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. But yeah, game of two halves. What was the sense like in the little corner of yellow, Danny, at the end of the game? Were there just like no fingernails left, but glad for the 3 points, or?
Yeah, absolutely. We got away with it. You know, if you did spoke to people at half time, we were looking really comfortable, and it was like, this is the best we played for ages. But yeah, when the final whistle went, it was like, well, thank God that final whistle's gone, because, you know, another 5 minutes, they probably would have scored. You know, we got another goal, because we were showing nothing going forward at all. I think one thing that game showed is that LBS, Luke Smith, who I think is by far our best young player coming through, cannot play up front. He was put up front in Nagasawa's position alongside Costa. He barely touched the ball. He just doesn't play to his strengths. He needs to get the ball. He needs to get the ball on wide with someone to beat and then burst past them. That's where he's good at. And he was completely wasted in that half. He barely touched the ball, I think. So that was, you know, not the best move for us in terms of our substitutions. Yeah, and apart from that, we just seem to lose all confidence, and in terms of our ability to go forward. Maybe taking Ishiga and Nagasawa off was a mistake. They hadn't been very good, I guess, or effective in sort of the 10-15 minutes beforehand. So I was originally thinking to myself, yeah, Ishiga's not got anything now. Let's take him off. And I thought maybe Nagasawa could push him back because their new marking had taken him out. So I wasn't too disappointed when they came off. But in hindsight, that took away pretty much all our creativity going forward. And so we had nothing. So, yeah, the final whistle coming was very... look forward to and great. And yeah, okay. It felt a little bit, I guess, at that time that we'd nicked 3 points, but you know, over the game we won the first half, they won the second. So, you know, look, we'll take it.
Let's dive straight into the game that we had last weekend. So back home against Melbourne, Victory, who we beat in Unite round. So we were capable of beating. I didn't have a lot of hope. This game, it was a 5-goal thriller, I suppose you could say. 2-3 loss. 4th minute, really early. Velupile scores. I feel like maybe Wotton could have done a bit better for that one. But anyway, they take the advantage really early. 10th minute, Piper goal, just really quick counter. There were 9 passes from the back to the front, ball in the back of the net. Corban Piper, I actually think he's our most exciting young player coming through, although LBS is also a good shot for that. 46th minute, so stoppage time. We think, are we going to go in with a, even at half time, but goal by Mashar, just flicked header at the corner. 50th minute, Virgos goal. This one pissed me off, and I think it pissed a lot of people off. Like he ran most of the field, just dribbled and dribbled and dribbled. Everyone just drops and drops and drops. There's like 5 defenders, and no one's like, okay, I will just put in the tackle while everybody else keeps dropping to cover me in case I miss the tackle. Nobody does it, and then he just scores. It's deeply frustrating, embarrassing, actually. I think FootMob even mentioned it on their accounts. That's how bad it was. 75th minute, though, Retray, nice assist from Tim Payne, nice cutback, top bins, beautiful finish. 5 minutes later, subs off again because he was apparently injured. I feel like we fought to the end, but the defending was poor for some of it. What Chiefy said in post-match was that the awareness in transition moments was very poor. Alex, did you go?
Yeah, I went. I think the team as a whole actually didn't play too bad. I think we worked pretty hard in attack and midfield especially, and in those transition moments on the attack, we looked pretty good. We looked like we could hurt them. We looked dangerous. In the transition moments on the defense, it was the complete opposite story. The only piece of the puzzle that probably let us down was defending the counter attack. That third goal was a horrendous goal to concede. People online have been kind of criticising Rufer, and I think it was Sutton that were running back and saying just foul them, take the yellow card. But the thing is, they don't actually want a yellow card, and if they don't have to take a yellow card, they shouldn't take a yellow card, because Wooten and Hughes are tracking back, and they're literally just running back with the attacker. They're like, you go on, you go. They're giving them a clear path to goal, when it's the simplest thing ever, just to stick a foot in and get the ball. If you don't get the ball, take the yellow card. But it should be 100% on Wooten and Hughes to take responsibility in that moment, and I don't think Rufer's at fault. I think our centre backs weren't the best in this game. They kind of let down a few chances go due to just basic communication errors, and obviously that last goal.
I thought this was sort of a really interesting match. It was sort of very different to how we've played almost the whole season to an extent, because we had no control over it. It was almost like Chiefy had just said, just go out there and see what you do, see what happens. Because we played very differently than we have before. We weren't playing the old sort of Chiefy sit back in a low block and have Barbarousse up front by himself. Weren't playing long ball. We mixed it up. We played long ball occasionally out from Oluwemi, and we occasionally played it out from the back when we scored. What we did do, which we haven't really done at all, even in games where we've been quite successful, is we pushed people up in numbers and quickly as well, which was great to watch. It made an entertaining game. But I mean, the first goal we scored, we had 4 attackers against 3 defenders, and that came all the way from the back. So it wasn't like it was just a real quick break. It was like 3 or 4 passes up, and we still had 4 people, up there in the front line against 3 Melbourne Victory defenders, which I'm sure their manager probably not too happy about. But the fact that we've got those 4 up there was like we've never seen before, because normally when we break quickly, it's Costa in the box. That's it, or maybe Piper, or maybe Nagasawa, but certainly not both of them, or 2 of them, or 3 of them. And that caught us as well, because it meant that we had less people at the back. Sometimes we were playing much further up, and they got through a couple of times. When we only had 2 or 3 at the back, and they would push forward in numbers, made for an exciting game, end to end. But it seemed like though. And I think Chief said in the end, we had very little control over that game. It was just playing football, 11 against 11, with not much game plan, or it didn't seem to be, which is unlike a Chiefy team, because normally they're quite rigid in terms of playing to whatever plan is set up. And so in the end, it sort of came down to who had the best 11 players on the pitch, which in the end was probably victory. But, we continued to play all the way through. I thought apart from the bad defensive errors, I don't think anyone had a particularly bad game. And the defensive errors certainly for that third goal was pretty much the entire defence. Someone should have taken responsibility, and no one did. So I'll blame all of them. And apart from that, I thought, we played some nice football. Piper scored his goal and did what Corban Piper does. I wouldn't actually call him a youngster, actually, Holly. I think he's 23. By the time Brooke Smith, his age, he'll probably have 7 years of professional under his belt. So, but he makes things happen. He's effective. Things happen when the ball gets near him. So great to watch. And in a game like that, it's perfect for him, because he doesn't have to do the technical stuff and the rigid tactical plans. He can just run around, get stuck in on the ball, and that's when he's best at. And he got his goal. He nearly got another one right at the end, right at the death header. So really entertaining game to watch. We lost it, which sort of talked a little bit to people who say we should play like that all the time. Yeah, we probably would. We probably were entertaining, but we'd probably lose lots of matches. Not that we haven't lost already a lot this season already, but fun. And I don't think we can read anything into it in regards to the season gone or the next few games coming or into next season. I think you just have to look at it as an entertaining game of football, which we lost by the odd goal.
Corban was touted as being the next Ben Sigmund. I don't know if anyone has an opinion on that. I mean, I think we should be getting contract extension on him as soon as we can, because he's great. But any thoughts on him being Ben Sigmund? Is he better? Is he the same? Is he worse? Different?
I think he could either be the next Ben Sigmund or he could be the next Hamish Watson. I think they're both players who don't necessarily had a lot of technical ability in terms of that, unpolished, if you like, but both gave 100% all the time, a lot of heart. Really like to see them play like that. And which way he goes, yeah, I don't know. I think last year even Corban Piper as he's now. Last year he doesn't get more than 3 or 4 minutes in the team last year. And if next year we're better, he's not going to play very much either. However, if we're at the level we are now, I think he plays quite a lot, and that's a little bit. It sounds a bit harsh to him, and I don't think it is, because I think he's been one of our most effective players this season. But I think he's been that because we're not very good. In a better team with better technical players, I don't think he gets on the pitch as much, unless he improves himself, which he might do. But as I say, he's not that young anymore. He can continue to be the effort, the hustle, and he can keep doing that, and that's what's made him successful this year. But I don't think he's necessarily going to get a lot technically better, because mostly he should have those techniques now already at the age that he is, and he's played a fair bit of football in his life. So I'm not sure what his ceiling is in terms of how much better he can get. But in a team like we have now, in where we're battling sort of the wrong end of the table, if you like, I think he's a really effective person to have. So I would definitely give him a new contract, because I think he could be useful. But I'd like to think next year and going forward, we will be too good for him to be anything more than a squad player.
Yeah, I think he's probably the signing of the season. But I actually kind of disagree with you, Danny. I think there's kind of always a place for a player like that, no matter how good you are. A physical player, someone that, might not be the best tactically, might not be the best technically, but, they can break up play. He's really, really versatile, and Chiefy loves a good player like that. Hopefully he sticks around. But I think, we need to get him on a new contract ASAP. And if we don't, he's probably got Auckland FC written all over him.
I know some people have mentioned Auckland. I don't think he gets in the Auckland side, realistically. I hope we give him a contract as well. I think I agree with you. I think there is a space in the squad for a player like that, who does whatever the manager tells him to do and runs around and, gives 100%, especially in A-League squads, because you need to have some cheaper players who will play for whatever. And, visa players are expensive, and good Australian/New Zealand players are at a premium. So I think there's a place for him in the squad, but I would like to think that we can be, I know it sounds like I'm doing it down, and I'm not, but I think we could be a better side, good enough that, again, that he is a squad player, and maybe we'll come on at certain intervals, certain times when we're playing it long, or we need to shore up the defence, or, a game gets particularly physical and we want him on the pitch. But if we'd have played this season how we were supposed to play, with your likes of your Rojas or your Chico and the small ball, which we haven't seen very much of, I don't think he would have got half as much time as he did, as he had this season. But we haven't done that, and he's found a way to make himself really effective. So, all power to him.
Yeah, we definitely need that sheer versatility, where I feel like he can just play. You can just put him wherever, and he'll be good. But you are right that maybe there is a ceiling on his technique. I do hope he gets re-signed, and we'll see how many minutes that he would get depending on how good we are next season. But he was originally, he's from Auckland, and he was thinking, oh man, if I make the A-League, it'll be Auckland FC as my option. Sounded like he was a bit not surprised, but that wasn't the route. The Phoenix wasn't the route that he thought he'd be ever likely to take. So we have been very, very grateful for him, and hopefully he can stick around. Our next game is against Adelaide. That is away. Where is it? I wrote it down. I did write it down. Please excuse me while I find it. It is Adelaide away, Friday, 9:35 p.m. New Zealand time. Adelaide were flying high at the beginning of the season. It even looked like they might be challenging Jaffa FC for the premiership. They have died off. Carl Viet, who's the longest serving A-League men's manager in history, I believe, is getting the sack. I don't know what's caused their fall off. I don't know whether we will be able to take advantage of that. I'm not super hopeful. They still have a very, very good team. Thoughts on Adelaide away?
I guess my thoughts are, I don't really know. As I said, the last few games we've played unpredictably. We're certainly capable, I think, of maybe playing well against them, because we've shown in the first half against Newcastle and against Victory and against Wanderers as well that we can compete. And when we're playing freely with this sort of new attacking spirit that we seem to have discovered and occasionally put on the pitch, that we can get up the other end and score goals. Whether we'll be able to do that, yeah, I don't know. Adelaide's a difficult place to go to. They're normally pretty strong at home. And even though they're not very good at the moment, they still have probably better players than we do. So, it would be nice if we can get an entertaining game like against Victory and maybe score a goal and nick a draw. My guess is we will probably be a narrow defeat, maybe a 2-1.
Yeah, they've been scoring a lot of goals, but they've also been conceding a lot of goals. Like they lost to Macarthur 5-4, which is a crazy scoreline. They lost to Victory 5-3. They lost to Sydney 3-2. And then they lost to Perth 4-1, which is completely outrageous because Perth are horrible. And conceding 4 to Perth isn't the track you want to go on. Adelaide is a really tough place to play. I hate that stupid Adelaide chant they do where they just yell at Adelaide. It makes no sense. And it pisses me off when we're losing like 3-0 to them. I think it has potential to be a really entertaining game because, they score lots, they concede heaps, and kind of we have a tendency to let in some goals. But if we play the same way as last week, kind of that more free style of play, counter-attacking and then being counter-attacked, I think it has potential to be a really entertaining game and like a goal fest even.
Well, time will tell. There's only those 3 rounds left now. Let's talk about the women who played their penultimate round yesterday against Canberra. This was a must-win to still have a chance of making finals. We've had a few of those must-wins lately. We lost 1-0 to an Ison goal in the 25th minute, I believe, off a corner. It seems that we dominated a lot of the stats. Possession, 38 to 62. Dominated possession. Shots, 11 to 18. Although on target was even, 6 to 6. Accurate passes, they had 174 to 366 for us. I feel like it was another one of those ones where we could have and should have won that, and we did not. And Canberra scored, I think Erin said they scored janky goals, that they'll score a janky goal or a tinny goal and get a win, which they have done over and over again this season, and we copped that. Danny, you were there?
Yep, wasn't you absolutely right? It was yet another must-win game, and it was yet another game that we didn't win. And thinking about it, we lost it, but I can't really criticise any one particular player. I thought we played some nice football. I think a lot of players played reasonably well. Nobody played particularly badly. There was no huge mistakes in there that I could see. We were the better side. We dominated possession, and that was obvious. But again, like this entire year, we just couldn't score. We had possession. We got up there. We created some half chances, but nothing was really clear. And we had no one to put the ball in the net. And it's beyond frustrating now that we've done this. It's cost us a season not having someone who could put the ball in the net. And that's it. And that's the end of the season. And so it was a really demoralising result in the end. Even though the performance itself was a decent performance, we played some good football. We put some nice combinations together. As I said, a lot of players put good performances or decent performances in, but we just can't score. And that's the story of our season. So in that respect, it's very frustrating. It wasn't a bad game to watch if you're a neutral. I've not been to McKellar Park in Canberra before, and it's a really nice setup for women's football. It's probably as good as I've seen. I think it's a lovely day. There's a good crowd there, and the fact that they're a standalone women's team, I think, gives it a different sort of atmosphere. They were obviously very happy because it pretty much means I think they're guaranteed finals now, or pretty much in there. So good day for them. 200th appearance for Michelle Heyman as well, who we kept very quiet, which shows that we defended pretty well. But at the end, it was just disappointing. And the most disappointing thing is that you could see it coming. Almost from sort of after the first 20 minutes when we hadn't scored, and it was like, it's going to be one of those games, isn't it? The one that I've watched again and again over the past few weeks, where we do everything except create clear-cut chances and putting the ball in the net. And I don't know what the answer is. Paul Temple obviously doesn't know what the answer is. He's tried all sorts of different things. And we've run out of time to find the answer. So, we have to think about that for next season, I guess.
Yeah. I actually saw a stat in the week that said Annalie Longo has created, I think, the most chances in the A-League Women. And if we had a striker, which is so depressing that she's created the most chances in the A-League Women and we're, bottom 4. If we had a striker who could finish goals and was a presence in the box and, did all those strikery Mariana Speckmeyer things, we would be up there, man. Like, we've actually got not the best defense in the league, but we're up there with the other teams. I think we're kind of in the middle of the pack, or maybe top half of defenses in the league. But it's just our attack that lets us down. It's the same problem away as last season. We've been very consistent away from home, and that's consistently poor. We really need to figure out these away games, because that's 2 seasons in a row where they've cost us heavily. There's been no improvement.
Yeah, you're right about Flea. She was player of the match. She just battles and battles and battles, and I desperately hope that she re-signs for us next season to keep going, because she is that impetus in the Fern that we were kind of hoping would come back and give the impetus that maybe we hadn't had amongst some of our other more senior Ferns. We've only had a few, like Betsy Hassett. But, Flea's great. Yeah, I think Erin said, Flea created 51 chances and we just need a 51 goal striker to go with it. In saying that, we had an excellent striker last season and still didn't make finals because we are really poor away. We had 2 wins away this season. One was Unite round, so it wasn't really like an away. It was an away traveling, but it was, we were definitely the home. Most of the support there were Knicks fans. So, I feel like that gave them a bit of a push to have such a rowdy Unite round Knicks crowd there. So, I feel like that kind of didn't count as an away game in some ways. Then, obviously, Western Sydney Wanderers just rolling over and letting us just walk all over them with that absolutely dominant performance. But other than that, we've been to a lot of games this season where I feel like the discussions we have about the women's team and why we lost get shorter and shorter and shorter each pod, because it's repeating the same thing over and over and over again. And to be fair to the men, it's probably something similar, although they have made some changes with the playing out the back, not playing out the back, which has made it more interesting. But yeah, we're having that same conversation over and over and over again. We will review the season once we're done, but Temps has not yet, his future has not yet been decided upon. I don't know whether we blame the club for not having the right preparation for away games. I don't know whether it's that. I don't know whether it's Temps and the decisions that he's making. I'm just that's the team I'm really devastated about, that just to still not make finals. It's our 4th season. We still haven't made finals. Only consolation, Sydney FC didn't make finals this year either.
Yeah, I mean, the away game thing is frustrating. I don't really see that we play particularly badly away from home most of the time. We've had quite a few games where we've put decent performances in, but again, it's just getting it over the line. And at home, we just seem to be able to do that. We get that last-minute goal down that end, probably on that second half goals, and we just don't seem to do that away from home. And Temple has tried a lot of things in terms of people up front, but we have a limited number of players. I mean, obviously we have a squad, and that's it. And we've had a pretty settled squad and a reasonably settled team. We've played around a little bit with sort of 4 at the back, 3 at the back, and Maine's come in and out, Elliott's come in and out. But really, we're talking about the same sort of 14, 15 players. And I guess there's only so many ways you can arrange them to try and find a cutting edge, basically. And we haven't managed to find that. Maybe there isn't a cutting edge there to be found. I don't know. Certainly we haven't tried it. So, yeah, I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, well, the easy answer is to get a better goal-scoring striker. But if we haven't got that, then, how do we change our play to make those chances that much more clear-cut that anyone can score them? We haven't found a way to do that as well. So next season, that's, it's going to be a few changes. If we lose Longo, everything's off the table because she's so important to this team. Hopefully she stays. And then obviously we've got the imports as well. McCutcheon was excellent yesterday. She played in the central defence and again kept Michelle Heyman completely quiet and then pushed up a little bit as well. So she was excellent yesterday also. If she goes, which is probably a reasonable chance of her going back to the States, then we've got another big spot to fill there as well. And that's after we've bought this wonderful 10 goals a season striker from somewhere.
Yeah, I think quality and depth is a real big thing too, especially in attack. Like we kind of only have one attacking substitute most games, and that's kind of Tanaka usually, maybe Manai Elliott, maybe Emma Main. And when someone gets injured, or we want to play a slightly different way because the way we originally hoped we would be playing isn't working out, we can't really do that because we just don't have enough quality and depth. And whether that's something which could be improved on by the club in terms of recruitment, or whether it's something that you just can't really do in the A-League women because of squad sizes, salary caps, bench sizes. Who knows?
I mean, in saying that, those rules are the same for everybody else, although obviously places like City are spending way more than what we can afford to spend. But those rules, like bench sizes, same rules for everybody, doesn't matter. We'll revisit this. We'll have a really good chat about the season, but I do wonder. I hope that there is a sense of at least playing for something in terms of pride for the match that is coming up this Sunday, the last match of the season against Western United at home, 4 p.m. local time, so New Zealand time at Porirua Park. It's rather interesting that we haven't played Western since round 1. So we actually had this massive stretch where we lost to them that one. And that was the one where we scored first. I was watching it at the Ladies League. That's right. We scored first. I was like, and then we scored. We conceded at one point 3 goals in the space of 15 minutes. And it was not a hopeful sense to feel good about the rest of the season having watched that. But it'll be interesting to have come all this way. And to play them again. So what are your thoughts on that? Alex, are you going to go?
Yeah, I'll probably be there. I remember that game, and I remember talking about it on the pod, and I remember the overwhelming sense that we got. What actually wasn't that negative. Some of the play in that game actually looked quite positive, and it looked like we kind of just needed to build, add on that final piece of the puzzle. We didn't add that final piece of the puzzle. We're still the same, maybe slightly worse. I think I kind of struggle to see us getting a point out of this game. Western don't have much to play for. We don't have anything to play for. The only thing they've got to play for, Western United, that is playing for a favourable draw in the finals, which we all know kind of doesn't really matter. And we're in poor form. Maybe it's a game where Temple can play the kids. Just tell them to have fun. Maybe that'll work. But yeah, I'm not super hopeful.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do. As I say, there's nothing to play for. But I don't think they've been particularly constrained previously. And for playing the kids, I don't know who the kids are, to be honest, because we haven't really had the kids on the bench. You could bring Aliera's on and Olivia Ingham, I guess. But I don't know what their mindset is going to be like. I think they're pretty gutted at not making finals from body language. Whether they can, bring themselves up to play what is a dead rubber for them, or if they're just going to be so disappointed mentally that Western, who are a decent side, have we seen have already scored goals against us, will just roll over us and put a few passes. So I think that's probably slightly more likely, unfortunately, because I just think they're going to be so disappointed at missing the finals and knowing that they should have missed the finals, and it's not due to dodgy refereeing, it's not due to bad scheduling or other teams being a lot better than them. It's purely down to them not getting the results that they should have done. So I think that disappointment might well carry over, unfortunately. So, I wouldn't put too much money on the Phoenix victory.
Well, we'll see. We'll be back to chat both of those games. Thank you for joining us, and Makawa.